And we're back. Hello, everyone. Rachel here with Foresight, back with my co host, Jordan Evans of CARE, back for another episode of Caring Conversations. So happy to be back with you. And shortly here, introducing our very, very special guest. So excited. But Jordan, how are you? How are things? Ted Lasso
Hi.
was here last week.
Yeah, Ted
Really good for
Lasso
you.
was here last week, so that was awesome. I got to tune in and watch you all hang out with Ted Lasso. That was fun.
So cool.
I tell you what, you know what, Rachel? I am tired, and I'll tell you why I'm tired.
Oh, please.
I am getting ready to go on our hero love journey. And I don't know if we talked a little bit about that, but for anyone who's just tuning in, let me tell you about it. So, Care and Naka are going on the road to get caregiver stories. And we are going to hit a bunch of different markets, a bunch of different cities and different states. And we're going to just get stories. We want to hear from our caregivers and our care force. And actually, all of this has been inspired by so many different moments. And one of which is, I think we talked about 2 weeks ago, how we got to go and meet all of the wonderful board members from NACA and hang out with the NACA folk. Well, we brought them with us. We were terrified in the hotel together, so we brought back Lori Porter, who is the CEO of the National Association of Healthcare Aides, and we also brought back one of their board members, Celeste Wooten, who is a CNA herself. And Celeste, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. So, again, my name is Celeste. I am a hospice CNA. I've actually been a hospice CNA. This is going on year 24 for me of being a hospice CNA. And when I found Lori and Naka, it's funny how I found them because I was trying to start an association myself. So when I found Lori, I was just like, oh, yeah, it's on now. Okay. So when I met Lori, it was so funny because at that time, I told Lori, I said, I'm going to bring hospice to Naka because Naka, they're at that time they were founded on our nursing home communities and stuff like that. So when I met Lori, I gave the charge that, hey, I'm coming in and I want to bring in other CNAs because there's so many of us. And so I love what I do. I'm passionate about being a CNA and I'm going to, go hard in the paint, as the young folks say, to make sure that CNAs get what they need and are given all the resources that they can get.
Preach.
Yeah, no doubt. Isn't that amazing?
I love
And
it.
we spent last week, thanks Jordan for joining us, and thank you to CARE for sponsoring part of our board retreat. We did scare he and Celeste and a few other folks that were with us. We took a nice ghost tour of 200 or so year hotel and got some nice pictures. But Celeste has one of the things I learned recently about her, and sometimes we get so fixated on nursing homes with what's been, especially the last 3 years in COVID. But, I found out from Celeste that she even, they see hospice patients in shelters. Mm. And I had never, it just never occurred to me that people, isn't that sad?
How is that a thing, Lori? I'm baffled by that.
Well, we'll let Celeste talk about that because she's certainly the expert, but I do think it's important for us to know how people are suffering out there. Go ahead, Celeste.
So basically what you can do is hospice is wherever the patient or resident calls home. And some people don't have a home. So, if they are in a shelter and they're getting close and the staff can tell, and we've, exhausted all resources, we go to where they are. We even get hospice patients that live in hotels.
Wow.
And if that's where they're at, then that's where we go. So it is, we tell people all the time, hospice is not a building. Hospice is a service that we offer wherever they call home. Wherever that is, that's where we go. And, and sometimes, the situations you walk into are not the greatest. But again, as a CNA, I'm going to give my best, whether you live in a $5 million house or you live in a $2 room day, a day room. You're going to get all of me.
I appreciate that. That's beautiful.
That is incredible. And, with another thing our association has benefited from greatly is the fact that Celeste is quite aware, especially when she goes into long-term care centers to visit or to see hospice patients. She has noticed, and if you guys will allow, I think it would be important for her to talk a little bit about, especially with the care heroes and such being out on their own often, about the absolute need for palliative and end-of-life care for every CNA, not simply those working in hospice. Would you agree with that, Celeste?
Absolutely. I've noticed sometimes when I go into our nursing home facilities, and even sometimes when CNAs step away from that realm and come into hospice, and I do their interviews, the first question I ask them is, how do you feel about death? Have you been around somebody that is dying or actively dying? Have you dealt with the families of somebody that is actively dying? Can you take care of somebody after they've died? And usually those particular questions either steer them and keep them with me, or it causes them to set back and think. Because sometimes in the nursing homes, you know, they're not actually sitting in there with them. They go in and check on them and do little things, but they don't have the knowledge. I don't want to say that they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the training available to let them recognize, hey, this patient is changing. Hey, this patient needs this. Let me go report this to the nurse. Or, how we present care is kind of different for somebody that's dying, because you have to be extra careful with them, about their skin, their breathing and different things. So I've noticed as opportunities for me, who is someone who's actually certified in hospice, I get to go in and I get to talk to these CNAs. They want to learn. They want to know how to take care of their residents at the beginning, at the end, and I always tell people death and dying is just as important as birth. So you have given the opportunity to take care of that resident the best way you can. And CNAs want that. They want that. They want that knowledge. They want that extra training to be able to give good care. And sometimes it's overlooked. And I help as much as I can within my scope of practice, but I'm always going to be an advocate for a CNA getting the resources that they need.
Absolutely. I love that point. I was just going to say quick, I love that point that CNAs want to learn more. There's not a lack of wanting to learn more. And I think that's so beautiful. And I know that's going to be the basis for the rest of our conversation, kind of continuing education. But just briefly, Celeste, I would love if you wouldn't mind speaking on just shortly. I mean, obviously that's really emotional, the kind of care that you're giving and what you've, are so passionate about. Well, how do you take care of yourself? Where's that balance of dealing with something so emotional? I can imagine.
I am lucky enough to have family that understand what I'm going through. So when I come home, I don't do it often as I should, but I just kind of decompress. Baking is my thing. Reading is my thing. And unfortunately, my reading usually involves me learning about other things. And then I have grandbabies. So those are my decompressions as well. So self-care is not always on the top of a CNA's list, because a lot of people equate self-care is, going to a big fancy spa or, the hair and the nails and stuff. Sometimes decompression can just be sitting outside in the still and the quiet. And sometimes I do that as well. So I try my best to decompress, but, after 24 years, I haven't quite mastered it yet, but, I'm trying.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Jordan, I wanna go ahead and turn it over to you. I know you have some questions.
Well, this is the basis of what we're talking about today, is education. And what does education mean? You know, Celeste, did you learn how to meditate? Basically, I think you're speaking of meditation. Did you learn how to meditate, or were resources given to you to meditate, to learn meditation and self care?
I actually went on YouTube and looked up meditation because I had no clue. And actually, during the retreat, Lori walked in on me. She was getting ready to come say goodnight. And I was sitting there and I was doing my thing, and Lori's looking like, is she all right? What's she doing? And that was just my way to get my woosah on, and calm myself down. But I literally went on YouTube. I just started reading about it because I felt like my mind was too jumbled to even attempt it. But once I started doing it more and more and more, I even learned how to do it at work. Like if it was a bad day and everything was happening, I would just have to go to my car, go in the corner, and just have a moment and bring myself down. So yeah, YouTube was my friend in reading.
YouTube and reading is often what CNAs, the only continuing education resource that they have.
The school of YouTube.
The school of
Right?
YouTube. I
Right.
mean, so can you go on YouTube and get a certification around hospice?
Unfortunately, no. You cannot, but you can watch videos of hospice. You can watch videos of CNAs on hospice. I'm actually on YouTube with a patient's family who recorded something that we kind of rigged because this gentleman wanted a shower and he couldn't get in the shower. So his wife wanted to help other hospice patients and he agreed to it. And we did a YouTube video, and it's actually still on there to this day. I kind of laugh when I go back and look at it. And I'm like, "Ooh, my slimmer days, my good-looking days." But, and, he's on there. We showed how we just came up with an idea. A CNA and a housewife. We came up with an idea how to give this man a shower in a chair using hose from the sink and the water catcher from underneath a washing machine. And it worked. And he loved it. And I mean, people were watching it and sending messages. And I mean, I thought it was hilarious, but it was an ingenious idea that gave a man a wish to just feel water running over him.
Mm.
So
CNAs are also known as MacGyvers.
Are you in my head, Lori? That's exactly what I was like. You MacGyvered it.
I say it all the time because, and with the economy and all that, if we crash and people are jumping out of buildings, I'd say get a hold of a CNA as fast as you can because they're survivors and MacGyvers and just about everything you need to make it through.
Absolutely.
There's no organization for our viewers. There's no organization that provides as well as requires and creates a curriculum for continuing education for CNAs, other than this wonderful group that we have here today. They are the ones that are sitting here and pushing not only regulators, but also communities to say, hey, you should not only educate your CNAs to do these things, but also acknowledge the certification when they have it. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, Lori and Celeste, just because you have the certification doesn't mean that they will necessarily respect it.
Are you kidding? Not generally. Now I think Celeste probably, I think I shared with you last time I was on the show that our members that are part of hospice and home care, home health and hospital walk around with a little bit more pride than those in the nursing homes do. But it's really because in the nursing home, you're not treated as part of the care team. You're taught at. you're not taught with. And so at NACA, we very much pride ourselves on experience-based, peer-driven education, where we share with the world what is the real weaknesses in terms of the patient bedside, no matter where they live. And I'll just say real quickly, because I'm generally good for a laugh, all that palliative care and dying process. I got to tell you, my second night of orientation in 1980, my mentor, Sugar, you better toughen up now. They called her a mentor. I had another name for her, mentor. But at 9:30, one of our residents died, and hell, I was 18. I had been to one funeral, and my mama wouldn't even let me walk up by the casket. And now I'm told I have to provide something called post-mortem care to this resident who has passed away on our shift. And all day long, she screamed like she was possessed. She's Maxine to the top of her lungs all dang day and afternoon. No most, she passes on my shift. So it's Sugar, here's where we see what you're made of. Come on, we got to. And she's like, comb her hair. And I'm like, huh? Brush her teeth. Wait, what? What are you? No, this is what we do. And every time she'd roll, I know the resident's name as well as I know my own. Every time she'd roll her over, the resident's eyes would pop open at me. I didn't even know that was possible. And then she says, you wait here. I got to run to the linen room. Are you kidding me? This is what orientation was in 1980, and it really hasn't improved. And this is why education is more than just skills. It is really learning how to communicate. Our average nurse aide coming in is around 20 years old. They don't know about postmortem care and all the wonderful things that they will do throughout their career in helping people take that final step. And it's critical that we have the support and training. Sorry for taking up so much time with that.
Celeste,
No, I agree with her.
Did you know how to do postmortem care before you got your palliative care certification?
Well, that was a little trial and error. Going back to Lori's story, mine is more or less my first hospice patient. I walked in, and my nurse was looking, and he said, okay, go ahead and do her bath and everything. I'm going to go out here and talk to the nurse. And we were in an assisted living. I said, okay. So I'm getting everything ready. And sad to say, she passed while I was bathing her. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at her, and I'm going, oh, my bath killed her. Oh, my, And then all of a sudden, she takes that deep breath, and I was like, you know what, I'm out. See you later. I went and got the nurse. I was like, I can't do this. I'm out. And, I was like, is she gone? And he goes, yeah, you can go ahead and finish. And I'm going, finish what? I'm out. And, so he was like, you can't do that. You have to finish the bath, and we're going to get her ready for her family. And I'm like, so you want me to bathe this lady and she's passed? What? And so it was at that moment that I had to get over my fear. If I was going to stay in this, I had to get used to it. So that was like my training. And so after that happened, and it happened one more time, I started just getting the knowledge myself of postmortem care, of how to recognize signs and symptoms. So, before I made the leap to go get my certification, I just took it upon myself to go ahead and start learning about what it is I'm supposed to be doing on my job and how to deal with it. And unfortunately, like Lori said, it's skills, but you're not taught how to empathetically take care of somebody. You're not taught how to, there's a way to converse with somebody who's dying. There's a way to converse with the family of somebody who's dying. So those are skills that you don't learn textbook, but they can be shown how to do it if you're, if you see it enough.
When you went to go get your certification, So first of all, this is funny. That's a funny story.
Wait,
but
can I
it's
just
also
real quick, Jordan?
infuriating.
Y'all, I am shook right now. Like I I am shook. Y'all are dropping some knowledge on me right now, and I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our caregivers out there. That to me gives me a ton of perspective. So Celeste and Lori, thank you both for sharing those stories. I mean, that's unimaginable to me, you know, of giving that kind of care, having those kind of things happen. And that's all I can utter right now. I'm still shook, y'all. I'm gonna turn it back over to Jordan. Goodness, guys.
It's infuriating to have this much lack of accountability for our caregivers. You walk into a job and you don't know what you'll experience that day, and you're going off of 2 months of training and maybe the same continuing education course that you have to take every year, and it's the same course. As I'm like regret. I've heard Lori talk so many times. I just know her.
We pretty much had the same death and dying in service for the last 3 decades.
And so, Celeste, I have a question of when you went to go and get this certification, who had to pay for it?
I paid for it on my own because I wanted it, and I didn't feel like waiting around for them to figure out if they were going to pay for it. So I wanted it. So I went after. I saved up for it, and I went after it. So, you know.
How long was it?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying, how long was it and how much did it cost?
At the time that I took it, you can study. They do the test 4 times a year. The test is about 2.5 hours long on computer. You go somewhere to take it. And the last time, well, when I took the test, it was $240 some. But I believe now it might be down to $185 because a lot of people wrote in, and I was one of those people. I was like, do you not understand what CNAs make? So, I mean, we want the knowledge, but I don't want to be able to have to forfeit a bill to get that knowledge. And so, you know, that was what I had to do. But, you know, now it's to the point where, you know, some companies will pay for it, some companies won't. And I am a big advocate in my particular company where I work about having CNAs certified in hospice and palliative care. I'm actually a big advocate in some of our ALs and nursing homes around me. I mean, everybody knows me around here because I've been doing this for so long, of advocating, even if they don't want to be quote unquote certified in hospice, give them the education because they've got these patients, residents until the very end. Don't scare them half to death when it gets there. Empower them, you know, give them the knowledge. And like Lori said, we're still looking at Relias and, you know, stuff from 18 million years ago. I mean, we were not prepared for this pandemic. Infection control has got to go beyond bloodborne pathogens. If I see that particular in service one more time, I'm going to scream. But, you know, we weren't ready. And it's because the knowledge is not up to date.
Yeah, that, you know, and if it's not required, it's not paid for. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And it is not required by CMS or anything else. 1 hour, just like 1 hour of infection control is all that's required in the federal regulations for skilled nursing home. And we wonder how we failed at a pandemic, the largest employed group on the front line across this nation, caring for all patients. Is so ill-equipped, so ill-prepared, and so not because they won't take it. You know, so often people say, we can't even get them to do their computer in services. Well, you need to make sure that it is inspired learning because no one wants to be a compliance check offline. They became CNAs because they want to care and they want to continue to learn how to care even better when things change and opportunities arise. So, I know Celeste is as happy as I am about you guys giving us this platform to discuss these things on. I've seen some of the comments come across and really amazing questions. And I think if more people understood the plight of frontline direct care providers, CNAs, we'd all have a greater appreciation nationwide for who they really are and their level of sacrifice.
100%. And it's like, to be the best, you have to take it upon yourself. Like, you don't have the backing and support. You guys are speaking up, which is incredible. Guys, Lori, Celeste, Jordan, I'd love to. What more can we do? How can we help? Is it just sharing out the word on the show? Is there more we can do? How else can we help?
Well, that's certainly one way, is to continue to share information like this. I mean, we're not the only experts, but as Jordan says, we are the only association of and for CNAs. So, we've had a long history of telling the truth and realizing that we can all do better. And maybe it's just difficult for some people to connect the dots. And so this is quite helpful. And then I'll yield to Celeste for comments or ideas.
I was just going to say, getting out the message, getting the resources. And then, like you said, a lot of people have to take it upon themselves if they want the extra knowledge, extra resources. I had shared with Jordan while we were at the retreat, I was like, I'm a CNA, but I also have 5 other credentials behind my name. And, he just kind of looked at me and he was like, what? And I said that, it was stuff that I wanted to do. I work with memory care. So I took it upon myself to become a certified dementia practitioner. And I'm also a certified Montessori dementia care practitioner. I'm also certified to lead support groups as a CNA. I'm also a medical assistant. I have my 2-year degree, but I love being a CNA. So if I can tell anybody anything, invest in your CNAs. Invest in them. We are more than task-oriented people. Invest in us. We are your walking business card. We want to learn. We want to be able, we want to make the business shine, but we want to make our patients and residents feel like they are more than a task to us. Because they are. We are there for them morning, noon, and night. We are there, no matter what. And invest in your CNAs. And it's not to put down any other discipline, not by a long shot. But invest in the people that know your patients and residents the most. Give them the resources that they need. Give them what they need to make sure that they are given everything that they can for that resident. They always say that CNAs are the backbone and they're their eyes and the ears. Okay, well, now it's time to live up to that. Give your backbone the support it needs to hold the rest of the body up.
It's beautiful.
Mic drop. So last week, of the beginning of this, we talked about what our CNAs want, what our care force wants. And Charles came on with all his big charts.
Hi, Charles. I saw he was watching.
and Charles is right. We are very proud of our partnership with NACA. We said the number one thing that CNAs want or caregivers want is access to continuing education.
Yes.
And, we pondered and pondered. Well, was that a ladder? It's not a ladder. It's lattices. We want access to other certifications. They want access to be able to do wound care, to not just be an infection to know infection control, to be an infection control specialist.
Yes.
To be able to do palliative care, like all of these things. I mean, it's $248 for a certification, and that was the most expensive that it was, and now it's $185. We spend more money on RN certifications as well as certifications for or continuing education credits for our admins. And that is not to put that thing down. Those things are very important. but we also need to have those things for our CNAs as well. See, I want to put that link back up here so people can see that. CNAs for Quality Care, 501c3, who accepts donations and provides scholarships for continuing education. That is something that first of all, it's the smallest thing you can do for your care force is give access to this for your CNAs that are on your floor, and then also provide them with what you need on the floor. If you need more wound care, certify your CNAs in this. There's a board member, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's two of your board members are qualified or certified to do wound care.
Not certified, but they are able to do some measure of wound care in the acute care setting. And Celeste would have to answer if that's possible in hospice.
Yes, I can do it in hospice.
That's where the other one came. And there's so much that CNAs can do if they're not treated as workers, but as care providers. Back in the late 90s, we lost a battle because our voice wasn't very strong then at just 4 years old. But the nation stopped calling CNAs and began calling them direct care workers. And the last thing on earth anybody wants to be that is a CNA is a worker. So I don't understand why we can't call them what they really are, a direct care provider. They are a provider of that direct care. And so it will continue to be things like this. And I do want to thank KARE because 30,000 CNAs across the nation and probably 20,000 more that I'm not counting have access to free continuing education as a result of the KARE and NACA partnership. So thank you so much I know many of our members, one of our board members shared with Katie on your team last week that she got better dementia training. She works a memory care unit, Sheena Bumpus. She got more dementia training that was better through our Care Force Academy than she had in all of the other workshops she'd attended throughout her 16 years in memory care. So There we have it.
That's incredible. I love hearing that, guys. Thank you. Thank you for making time today as we kind of come up on time here and sharing these stories. And I think the biggest thing is, we're continuing to change the perception of what the care force looks like, what they want, and how we can best support them, which are all huge, huge things that, I know Jordan and I and KARE and you guys are all so concerned about, and why we wanted to do the show. It's so important. So guys, I thank you so much for being here today. As always, Jordan and I are here streaming on the platforms, Senior Living Foresight on our LinkedIn page, YouTube. Please subscribe. Please catch up on these conversations. There's been so many great ones. The first one, Lori had me laughing and then crying so hard because I was laughing. It's too much. But there's been so many wonderful conversations. I'm continuing to learn, which is my favorite part about being a part of these conversations. So KARE, Naga, thank you guys for the opportunity, for me to learn more. This is beautiful. And a couple housekeeping things as we sort of wrap up the episode. Jordan and I have a few more episodes left here for November, but we're getting in the holiday times, guys. We're going to take a little bit of a break. So we have a few more episodes in November, but we will also be back for a special one in December with some messages from the KARE team, some holiday wishes, and then we'll be taking a break into the new year. But Jordan, you want to close us out? Anything you'd like to say?
If you haven't looked up NACA, it's time to look up NACA. If you haven't spent time with your CNAs, it's time to just walk right out of your closed door office or your open door office and ask someone what their story is.
Right.
I want to thank Celeste for being here today. Celeste actually took a lunch break and decided to talk and took time out of her lunch break to talk to us. And this is the dedication that the NACA team has to continuing education and also just to leveling up our care force. I want to thank Lori and Celeste for being here. And as I said, if you haven't been watching these other episodes, they're great conversations. And I hope that everyone is just enjoying this as much as I am.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that is
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys. Another episode in the books, and we will catch you on the next one, guys.